Greetings. This is your CJG here, coming to you with another State of Star Wars EU podcast. It took a small while to get one of these up, but some real life priorities got in the way. For those that have college and school in these days, well, you know how that is. So apologies for that, but here we are for another podcast, and we'll be tackling two one-shots of Jango Fett and Zam Wesell. And joining me here is none other than the one and the only...
Macho Mandalorian, aka Jango Fett.
Oh yeah! So he's back in full force with more Jango Fett. Oh, and Boba Fett, because he also shows up here, because why not? And yeah, we're literally... You could say, I guess, we're milking Mandalorian Season 2 featuring Boba Fett, especially the most recent episodes. Oh, yeah, that was definitely amazing. So, yeah, and we're going to go full force on the Boba Fett EU spirit, and Jango Fett too. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, our first experiences with these comics. So... Mine, I don't have too much of it, other than I just heard of it before, and I read them recently. So that's all I got for now. But the Jango probably has one, so go ahead, the Jango.
As with all of my other stories, I found it in the bookstore, and I found this one really odd in particular because this was like the tiniest paperback I've ever seen when I went to the bookstore. And it took me like no time to finish because it's only 2 issues. But I was actually looking at the cover too, and it was actually $6 for the first issue. I don't know if that is correct, but in American $6, that's kind of a lot for a single issue.
It probably put a lot of effort into this.
I bet, who knows?
Anyway, so anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's go with the first issue. This is going to be with how the Jango said it, this is going to be just 2 one-shots. And even though they are somewhat the same story arc, they're two different one-shots. One is called Jango Fett, the other is called Zam Wesell. Them being just 2 one-shots, it means that this is going to be not as long of a podcast as usual, but we're still going to do our best with this. So let's begin. So the Jango, one of the honors on the summary of the first issue.
Yeah, sure. All right, so I want to preface this is that first issue is Jango Fett, and the second issue is Zam Wesell, like CJ mentioned before. But it is a continuing storyline, so you do have to read Jango Fett before you read Zam Wesell. So with that being said, Jango Fett is done by the story is by Ron Mars. He's done a bunch of, I think, Boba Fett stories, a bunch of stories, and the art is by Tom Fowler, because Zam Wesell is actually done by a different artist. So in this one, we start off, we have Boba Fett playing with his toys, and he has like a miniature Jango Fett for some reason.
How did he
battling
get that?
against some droids.
How did he get that?
I have no idea. But
I guess Boba was such a huge fan of his own father that he said, I want to have some sort of a minifigure of it.
I don't know how he got one, but he's playing with these toys, miniature versions of his father and stuff. And a droid appears and he's like, okay, your father's gone to a job, and Boba's waiting patiently for his father. And it goes to another planet where Jango is taking out a bunch of guards, and then he takes out this Vigo. He's just drinking apparently some wine of sorts. And Jango Fett appears in the dark, and he tells him that he's sent by Dredden the Hutt. And the guy says, oh yes, Dredden would have the audacity to send a single bounty hunter to the estate of a Black Sun Vigo. And as he drinks his wine, apparently he gets shot, and he drops the wine, and he goes back to Dredden the Hutt, only to find him dead. And we have Zam Wesell in what appears to be the Leia slave attire. So Zam Wesell, she's like a changeling, and you actually see her she has like this orange head of hair, so she can change her look. She's like a changeling or a Claudite. I think Claudite? I think that's what it's pronounced.
She's a Claudite, which is a shapeshifter.
Yeah. So Zam Wesell does kill Dresden the Hutt. It's actually funny because she said that in the process of doing this job, she had to do some very scrupulous stuff for Dresden the Hutt, and it took a long while just before she got to the point to kill the Hutt. While as Jango, he just took out the guards and took out this guy, and done deal right there. But she had to do a much more work in the process. And so as they're drawing their guns, they actually say that the Vigo who Jango Fett killed, Zam was hired to kill Dredden the Hutt, and Jango was hired to kill that person, the Vigo. So they're in the crosshairs right there, and they have a dilemma because they both want to get paid.
But
So
they can't.
both don't get paid.
Like, that's the funny part. Like, one of them gets hired to kill a specific target, and the other one gets hired by that target to kill the one that, like, like, both people that hire each other, that hired the bounty hunters, like, turned out that they got killed.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
So they're kind of still in this like I don't know what the term is. It's like they have their guns to each other, but they're saying, okay, so we should probably lower our guns. And she's like, yeah, we should. And then they're like, you first, in unison. And you could tell she has a thing for Jango right there in some of the panels you see there. And then she just leaves, and Jango returns to his son. But then he gets another call from Fernoda, a Doug, and he's hired to get this artifact. And he actually has to meet with this guy first. So he actually goes to the tavern, and while he's walking into the tavern, some of these guys try to jump him, and he easily just like puts them down, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jango Fett.
I mean, you can't go face to face with that guy, and even Boba Fett too, when he got older self as well. So he comes face to face with the guy Fernanda, and he tells him that he was hired by somebody else, and Jango doesn't like. He just wants to be hired by the person who directly hires him, not some other handler. So he doesn't like that. And he wants to walk away. Asks for double the price in order to do this bounty. He's like, okay, fine, we'll do it. And Fernanda just tells the guy he took the job. So he travels to this world, this other jungle world, to get this artifact. So he travels to the temple, almost falls down, and he's greeted by this giant lobster monster of sorts. Easily takes him out with a flamethrower, shooting him up, and he just goes down and back into the hole. So he's not dead, he just falls down in the hole. So he's walking to where the artifact is with this guy protecting the artifact. And he actually uses the Force. He uses like a Force push on Jango Fett. And then Jango just guns him down. He says, damn Force sensitives. And he kills the guy in the process. Or he shoots him and injures him. And so he grabs the artifact, and the guy is telling him, You can't take it. You have to return it back to this place. Otherwise, it will destroy worlds. So he doesn't believe him, and then he leaves. But Zam also greets him, and she's like, okay, you want to give me the artifact now? So they find out that Fernanda actually hired multiple people. So Zam and Jango Fett to get the artifact.
As insurance.
As insurance, yeah. So they have this talk, and Jango has to take off his helmet because that's what she's asking Jango Fett to do. And she gets distracted by the lobster monster that comes back again. And he grabs the artifact and is about to walk away. Then for some reason, he has a little bit of a heart for Zam Wesell. So he goes back for her and shoots up this lobster monster. And they actually fall down the hole and destroy it with explosives. And then they actually part ways, and she's like, okay, you can take the artifact. You kind of earned it from this point on. And he returns the artifact to Fernanda. And he gets his money, and that should be a done deal. But Jango Fett does threaten him. He's like, you hired another bounty hunter as insurance. You lied to me. No one's ever lied to me twice. The relationship as it is at an end. Don't contact me again. And if he ever sees him again, he will kill him. So it ends with Fernanda giving the artifact to another person we'll mention in the other story. And it ends with Jango Fett just hugging his son and just going back to his planet, and that's it.
Yep. That's the first issue. So what do you think of this one, Django?
It's fine. I mean, I think the artwork it's okay. It doesn't really help with the situation, but I just feel like the story is kind of subpar to me. I don't think it's very exciting to read. It's kind of just a quick one shot, and then it continues on with the next story. But it's I mean, there's not that many Jango Fett stories. This is probably like the third. Is it the second or third? I don't even know how many Jango Fett stories there are, but it's like
As far
this.
as I know, well, there's obviously these two one shots. There's Jango Fett Open Seasons, and there's also the first Blood Ties that's somewhat centered on
Blood
Jango
Ties,
as well. So that's the ones I know so far.
Yeah, Blood Ties too. Yeah. So this is probably one of the most forgettable of the Jango Fett Boba Fett stories. But we'll continue on with Zam Wesell.
Yeah. What I thought about this one, I thought it was decent. I didn't think it was bad or anything. No, I've yet to get into the second Blood Ties comic, which that definitely probably is going to be the definition of forgettable or mediocre. But this one so far, not too bad. I mean, I thought it was fine. Definitely the first Blood Ties was a lot more interesting. But this one at least was fine. No issues there. So, but yeah, that's the first issue so far. So, also I find it interesting that also something about to consider about this comic. This actually happened after Star Wars Bounty Hunter. So basically so it's kind of taking off from that story. I think it's a few years after Star Wars Bounty Hunter, but I don't know if it's the same as in 32BY or after. Oh, it's actually 5 years after. Okay. So it's basically in the middle of the 10-year gap between episodes 1 and 2. So that explains why Boba looks younger than we usually see him in his kid self. So anyway, so now we get on to the second issue. Okay, so this one is about Zam Wesell. So it begins in a place I didn't expect in this comic because, this is supposed to be about the bounty hunters. But no, the issue actually starts in the Jedi Council, surprisingly, with Mace Windu, Yoda, the rest of the Jedi Council discussing what to do about the artifact that was given to the hooded figure we saw in the last issue. Turns out this hooded figure is called General Ashar Gorda, a Anodat radical. And basically, he got this artifact, some sort of mysterious weapon that he intends to use to strike against the Republic. So this definitely is a dangerous, not a foe with a dangerous weapon. So at this point, the council decides they need to do something about it, and one of the council members, Master Poof, Yarrow Poof, which is the master with the bald, very long neck, decides to take matters into his own hands and investigate Coruscant for the whereabouts of that artifact. So then we got back to Kamino, and we see Boba playing ball outside Kamino, and he sees Zam Wesell, and that's actually the first time that Boba's ever met Zam Wesell, actually. And that's where they say hi to each other, and Boba then goes inside, and Jango talks with Sam regarding the artifact that that they gave to Fernanda. And well, they pretty much just and then Sam explains to Jango that it was actually a weapon that could destroy planets, and gave it to the general guy that wants to destroy planets. And Jango doesn't seem to care. He seems to be the cold-hearted mercenary that just wants to get paid for the jobs. Doesn't matter what that job entails. But Sam thinks that because she contributed to that, she feels guilt for it and wants to basically to do the right thing in this case, and pretty much undo this humongous disaster is going to happen. So Jango doesn't really want to, but goes to Coruscant, and we see a speeder taxi taking some sort of taking somebody to specific hideout. The hooded figure kills the taxi cab driver, and he just goes in, and well, and the guy that was it turns out to be General Ashar himself, having the artifact in some sort of cylinder. He introduces it to a specific gang, telling them about his plans of taking over Coruscant by destroying its core using the artifact itself. And
No, it wouldn't take over Coruscant. It would destroy Coruscant completely.
oof, well, that definitely is not gonna go well. So yeah. So that's the plans. Then we see in the street this kid that is running away from some sort of mob. But then for the mob, they see some sort of humongous rancor ready to eat them. They run away, but turns out that it actually was just the Jedi Master Yarel Poof just making some sort of huge mind trick on them to scare them off. And the Jedi Master talks with the kid, asking if any of the whereabouts of the artifact or anything mysterious, and so they discuss where to go, and the Jedi Master goes on his path to go to where the mercenaries are, and then those same people who were running from the Rancor, they literally encounter Jango Fett, and they're like, run! And so two nightmares at once, lol. And then a dog arrived to Jango, which turned out to be Zam Wesell, who shapeshifted herself from a dog to her human form. And yes, for those wondering, yes, she was naked, and Jango had to give her her clothing and equipment so that she could be ready for the task. So yeah. Funny thing is that Sam tells Jango that gentlemen usually turn their backs while a lady changes, but Jango's like, that's not the sort of changing most people have in mind, and you're no lady. So even though she is female, but he means that it's not a human female, so it's a Claudite. But yeah, so that's how it goes, and they basically go to the. So they go to the task to take out the general with the artifact, and while the general and their forces are going into the core of Coruscant, they deliver the core, but unfortunately, well, they encounter not only the Jedi Master Yerapoof, but also Jango and Zam Wesell. Yup, three of them taking down the general, and a battle ensues. And the battle definitely is definitely it's action packed. Definitely it's interesting. Like both Jango and Zam Wesell fighting together against mercenaries. That is something we don't usually see, actually. And Gerald Poof, it's a Jedi we saw in episode 1, but we never saw in episode 2. Why? Well, this comic is why. So yeah, so the battle was going on. The bounty hunters managed to get the leg up. Unfortunately, the Jedi Master was not too lucky. He was stabbed by the general, and with what was left of its life force, he decided to sacrifice himself to make sure the artifact doesn't destroy the whole planet. And well, that's what happened, and died. So yeah, so that Yerapoof died here. That's why he never appeared in episode 2. So yep.
Yeah.
There's that. And then Jango and Sam decide to return the artifact back to where it belongs, in the planet. They're greeted by the indigenous species that live there, and basically they greet them for returning the artifact. And the leader says that you brought back, which is ours. We thank you. Now please just go in peace. Don't return. And they go. They leave the planet, they go to Camino, and Sam's just asking, how does it feel to have done something right for the right reason, rather than just a profitable one? And Django's like, I'd better go find some paying work. And Sam's like, please, there's a part of you that's not half so cold as you'd have people believe. I know there's a man under the mask, but if you don't want to walk away from this empty-handed, there. And Sam literally gave Django a kiss in the cheek. So yeah, and well, she she just goes off, and Boba then goes and greets his father, hugs him. Daddy, very glad to be here. And he asks, "Miss me?" And always. And then Bo's like, I thought I saw you with that lady again. Is she a friend of yours?" And Django's like, "Tell you the truth, Boba, I'm not sure." And Bo's like, "Would you ever see her again?" And Django's like, "I think you can count on it." And yeah, we know that definitely happened. So there's that. Now, one last thing in this issue, the Jedi Masters are burning Yarael Puff's corpse. Jedi celebration, similar to how it happened in Episode 1. Well, not celebration, more like funeral, of course. So they're basically talking about how Yarael Puff was the epitome of what all Jedi tried to be. So we gathered here for the temple to mourn his passing, but more than that, to honor his life. And so they're talking about how he gave his he gave his life for a cause he believed in. And so the pyre is the end for which all true Jedi are destined. Anakin Skywalker. Yeah. So keep in mind, this comic is 5 years after Episode 1, after Bounty Hunter. So basically, here is Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker. So this is one of these rare instances that we see Anakin Skywalker not as a boy, but not as a adult or teenager yet. So, yep, there's that. And so there's something else that we need to discuss in this finale that seems apparent. Master Puff truly did save all of Coruscant by preventing the Idol's detonation, but someone else obviously carried it away to a place where it posed no threat. We have no idea who that might be. But heroes will sometimes come in the most unexpected guises. And that's the end of this second issue. So what do you think of this one, Django?
Also, I think this one was actually, I think it was better. I think it's still a little, so, yes. It's still decent, but I think it's better because it has more action and it kind of like explains a lot of points where with Yarael Puff being a very important one. Mm-hmm. And then some of like where this book kind of fits in the timeline, because there are references we can expand upon a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But I actually like the story a little bit more, and even though it's called Zam Wesell, it's not really centered around Zam just alone or Jango Fett. So like you might be a little deceived when first like seeing like the cover for this and saying, "Oh, this is going to be a Zam Wesell story." You might be a little deceived because of that and the Jango Fett story, but it's like people might think it's like the origin story, but it's kind of a continuation storyline. So some people might be deceived because when looking at that, but I think it's fine. It's fine in the end.
Something I gotta mention about this issue: Jango and Sam fighting together. That's something we rarely see. We've seen them work together at Episode 2, of course, but we don't really see them like actually like fighting together against specific enemies or anything. Like we never really saw that.
And doing good.
Yeah. Oh yes, that too. That too. That's also something unexpected. So yeah, that's very interesting. Like you don't get to see that very often. So yeah, that is definitely something. So yeah, credit to the comic for that. It's awesome. So but yeah, so anything else to mention on this, Django?
I think we can get to the EU stuff.
Okay, the EU stuff. Now in regards to the EU connections with these two one shots. Okay, biggest obvious one out of the way. This takes place 5 years as a Star Wars bounty hunter. The second issue even goes as far as mentioning mantras and even mentioning how Jango faced him during the events of Bounty Hunter. So and also it even has a reference to Jango Fett Open Seasons because Jango at one point mentions his origin of how he was an orphan because of the town where he was, Concord Dawn was this, the Death Watch stormed it and he was taken by the Mandalorians. So those are two references right out of the gate: Jango Fett Open Seasons and Bounty Hunter, and makes sense given that Bounty Hunter has strong references to Jango Fett Open Seasons and vice versa. So yeah, it makes sense. Those two would definitely be big references here. But this comic, it's interesting that it shows those references because we usually don't get them like here's the thing with Blood Ties, we didn't get any connections to Jango Fett Open Seasons or Star Wars Bounty Hunter, but in here we did, which you think Blood Ties would do it a bit more, but it didn't. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. So thoughts on the Django?
Yeah, like for like these are actually pretty important references for this story too, because it's like with Bounty Hunter, we even have Jango Fett saying, you remember Montross, and Zam's like, yeah, everyone remembers Montross, and then he says, he was the toughest opponent I've ever faced, but I think I'd rather fight him again than fight a madman in the general. So that's a pretty. I mean, I don't remember how the fight went, but I think it was a pretty tough fight. So that's actually a pretty good reference into that. And then when it regards to open seasons, because he was an orphan, and Zam mentions during the story that like how many people are going to die, billions, children, because you have a child yourself. Like, do you want to see billions of Bobas also die in the process? Like, can you live with that? So that kind of convinces him to actually engage with Zam and to do this mission in the first place.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, that is definitely something. According to Wikipedia, one of the mentions here is the Mandalorian Civil War, which is literally reference to Jango Fett Open Seasons, and yeah, that is indeed the case. So we can confirm that is indeed the case. So other EU mentions. Now this is an interesting one because the artifact itself, the infant of Shah, the religious statue, that thing, yes, it first appeared here in these two one shots. But here's the thing: it also was indirectly mentioned in the Attack of the Clones illustrated companion. Yes, the illustrated companion of the Attack of the Clones. That's a new one. And also Star Wars Insider 66, the official Star Wars Fact File 101. The new Essential Chronology mentioned as an alien religious idol, the complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, and even the Essential Atlas. And of course, the Star Wars, the Ultimate Visual Guide Updated and Expanded. So basically, this story is indeed full C canon with that alone. But there's more. Dread on the Hutt. He actually first appeared in Star Wars 11 Outlander Part 5 in flashbacks. That was actually his first appearance. And he was a character that was brought back here. Yup. So that's another reference there to one of the previous Dark Horse comics. So, and also, Dread on the Hutt was actually first mentioned in Episode 1 Incredible Cross Sections. So that's even more obscure references in regards to Dread on the Hutt. So yeah, that's what happened. That's another big reference. Other ones are the official Star Wars Fact File 65, 71, and 101, as well as the Star Wars The Comics Companion for some characters like Fernoda and also the homeworld of the Salat species, which was called Salat. So that also is referenced in those same sources, including Essential Atlas, but also another source that this planets mentioned, Star Wars The Old Republic MMORPG. Yep. Also is mentioned there. And so, yeah, the biggest references in here, they come from multiple sources from Jango Fett Open Seasons, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, the Essential Chronology, the complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, the Essential Atlas, Ultimate Visual Guide Updated and Expanded, the official Star Wars Fact Files course, even going as far as Star Wars Outlander, which is definitely one I didn't expect, and even the one Incredible Cross Sections. Like, yeah, that's definitely some interesting EU references there. So this comic has more references to the EU than the first Star Wars Blood Ties. Let that sink in.
Yeah, and like compared to the previous stories that we've read before, like this has a lot more than I expected.
Yeah, me too. I didn't expect that many. Especially didn't expect Bounty Hunter and Jango Fett Open Seasons. So yeah, these do have a lot more than we expected. And of course, we mentioned before why Yarrow Poof was not in episode 2, but was in episode 1. This comic shows it because, well, he died in this comic. So there you go. That's another one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on that too, because I think many people are like, hey, what happened to him after episode 2? Because like he appeared in episode 1. Well, yeah, of course. And they actually make him out as a hero in this comic. which is great. Like you don't want to just like put him in here and then he's just gone or something like that. He just vanishes. But they actually explain that, and you even actually had one point where he's trying to bring down the artifact to his hand, and he brings down this opponent, the general opponent, and you even have Jango Fett screaming like, "Hey Jedi, watch out!" Because like if you remember from Open Seasons, Jango Fett has kind of a detestment of Jedi after a certain battle that took place. So the fact that he's calling out to a Jedi and warning him, it says something. And also the fact that in the beginning of the battle he didn't go out and attack him first because he hates the Jedi, says something too. He's on a mission and he's here to take down, like he's here to get that artifact and save the planet. So that also says something about his character too at the same time.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, this is the extent of the connections this comic has to the rest of the Star Wars EU timeline. So, yeah. Anything else to mention, the Django?
No.
No. Okay. Well, now there is one thing we're gonna mention, and once again, this is another one that we gotta criticize. The Essential Reader's Companion. You know it, the Django. The Essential Reader's Companion once again omits this story. Why?
They don't talk about a lot of comic book stories, which I'm kind of surprised by, and they just focus on like the novels and
very few comics.
I guess some of the games and stuff, and very few of the comics. So they don't even pay attention to the comics at all. So it's a little biased.
It's kind of bullshit that the Essential Reader's Companion doesn't like. I don't get it. These two, they're one shots. They're short. They're two. Okay, that's fine. But Blood Ties was 2010 as far as I know, 2011 when it came out, maybe 2012. So I can understand that. But it even ignores the Boba Fett one-shots from Dark Empire, ignores Enemy of the Empire. Like, why is it ignoring so many comics? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I thought Enemy of the Empire was in there.
Oh, it was there?
I think it was in there. I think that was like the only comic that I noticed that was in there.
I don't remember, but I'm gonna check right now. But while I check, seriously, what the fuck is up with the Essential Reader's Companion? Why? No, it's not there. It's not there, the Django. Yeah, the Essential Reader's Companion. I don't know what the fuck it has against comics, especially Boba Fett and Jango Fett comics. Why? Seriously? What the fuck? Oh, God Christ. Like the fact that the fucking Essential Atlas has to literally like it's the only one of the third generation Essential Guides that makes this comics not go out of the C canons, because they only had the Essential Chronology and maybe the Complete Star Wars Encyclopedia. They could still be considered C canon, but because of them being on the earlier guides, there could be more leeway for some to retcon them out. So, give them less legitimacy in the continuity. But thanks to the Essential Atlas, they at least do have that legitimacy there. So these stories were indeed canon. But the Essential Reader's Companion, like, what the mother of a fuck? Just why? Just why not contribute? Why just leave it all to the Essential Atlas? Like, this is like the fourth comic we tackled the Boba Fett and Jango Fett. And again, the fourth time the Essential Reader's Companion doesn't even reference a single thing of these comics. Like...
Yeah, what can you do?
I guess all we can do is just call it out. But at this point, it's a bit too late on it. But we gotta at least mention it for those that want to save time on looking for this in the Essential Reader's Companion. Not worth it. The Essential Atlas has that info for you covered, and the Ultimate Visual Guide of the Expanded and the Star Wars Encyclopedia. So there's that. But at least it's good that it's in the Essential Chronology, Essential Atlas. So at least we got that. But yeah, so. That's all we gotta say on the EU connections. So now we go to the conclusion. So, the Django, final thoughts on this?
So I think this is a pretty decent story overall. It's not on the top of my list by any means. It's probably on the bottom, but that's not. I mean, when you think of like how many Jango Fett stories there are, like there isn't really that many at all. So it's not really saying much. but it is worth reading, especially if you're a Jango Fett fan and you want to see the connections in the EU and Boba Fett or Bounty Hunter and the Open Seasons comic storyline. So you will see those connections in this story, and it's if you're a Jango Fett fan, then I would recommend it. If not, then I would still recommend it. I think it's kind of worth reading. It's a pretty short story anyway, too.
Yeah. So, anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, my final thoughts. I thought these two one-shots were decent. I did enjoy the second issue more because it had more action, but I enjoyed both. Both were cool. And yeah, if you're a Jango Fett fan, like the Django or a few others I know, yes, definitely worth reading. If you're not, well, depends if you like Jango Fett or if you like Mandalorians. So if you like them, but you're not necessarily too big into them, might be worth reading at least once. So if not, and you just care about the movies and probably just prefer more Jedi or other aspects, then maybe skip it. So because this comic will not really give you much worth if you're just a movie only goer. So or a casual EU goer that doesn't like too much Mandalorians or bounty hunters. So yeah. For now, this comic recommended to Jango Fett and even Boba Fett fans. So that's all I gotta recommend for this comic. So this is our podcast on Jango Fett and Zam Wesell one shots. So we will see you guys on the next State of Star Wars video. Bye bye, guys.
See you guys.